Well, I'll promise that I'll try and keep you as entertained as possible. So you're not sitting through this entire presentation just thinking about putting me at the end of the kill chain for keeping you away from lunch. So, so thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody. My name is Will Arnett. I am the Director of Marketing. That's right, Dr. Jimmy, the Director of Marketing. I felt so called out earlier. But it's not the first time at the cybersecurity conference that I've felt called out. At DEF CON this last year, there was one presentation that was about marketing. And I was like, okay, let me go in here and see what I can use and maybe, do my job a little bit better. I look at marketing from the aspect of a social engineer, because that's really what marketing is. We're trying to get people to make decisions based off of, emotional output. And so I went to this presentation, and I go to the second row, and I just go and I sit down, and I'm right in the center of it, and the guy comes out, and he's like wearing a wizard hat, and he's like, did you know that these marketing people put something called cookies on websites? And that's how they know what you're looking at, so they can serve ads to you. And I felt very called out. I sat through about 10 minutes of that, and he was basically going over what AdWords were, what search engine optimization was, and I was like, oh crap, this is completely a waste of my time. So I social engineered my way out of there by faking. I got a phone call, oh, sorry, scoot. Last time I ever sit in the, well, that's not true, I've been sitting center stage the entire time. But anyway, yes, so I work at Alias Cybersecurity Digital Forensics in Oklahoma City. We've been around for 16 years. I look at marketing from the aspect of, I like to educate people. So I get very passionate. I'm not a salesperson. I get passionate about what I do, because what we are doing here, what all of you are doing here, is saving people's lives and saving people's livelihoods. So you should give yourself a round of applause for that. There you go. So shameless plug real quick, and then we'll get into this. So we do have a podcast that comes out bi-weekly. It's called the Secure AF Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you cast your pods. And then we do a weekly, just kind of 9 to 10 minute drive time podcast on the same channel called the SOC Brief, that talks about upcoming threats and intel to get you where you're ahead of the curve. So today we're going to talk about a very important topic, and it's been harped on a lot over the last 24, 30 hours now. And that is keeping AI tools human-centered in digital forensics. Click. Click. Okay, I'm just going to do the... There we go, okay. So AI tools are shaping the way that modern digital forensics cases are being handled. But rather than becoming reliant on these tools, forensic investigators need to be diligent in checking that the work of these tools are keeping the AI human-centered. So how do we use AI responsibly, effectively, and defensively without losing the human expertise that ensures digital forensic findings hold up under scrutiny? That is the big question I want to leave you with today. So, we talked about this yesterday, and I like to call out Madam Librarian, who I think is in the back still. Hey! So yes, AI is incredible. You mentioned this yesterday. AI is incredible. It's a tool. And sometimes, let's be honest, it acts like a tool. But it is not a solution. It's never a solution. And people are always talking about, oh, AI, it's going to take our jobs. Well, let me remind you, well, most of you won't remember this, but back in the 80s, there was this little software program that came out called Microsoft Excel. And everyone was like, oh no, it's going to take all the accountants' jobs. there will be no more humans doing accounting work. Now all the accountants use it, or something similar. So let's clear the air on some common misconceptions. AI is infallible and unbiased. Some idiot, probably on Reddit, said that. So in marketing, I'm sure, how many of you, raise of hands, have heard of search engine optimization, SEO? Okay, now, how many of you have heard of AEO? Okay, what is AEO?
AEO is optimizing content for being easily indexed and retrieved by large language models. So you can get your product or information in front of people when they're searching for it using ChatGPT or Claude or something.
Absolutely. So, and search engine optimization. How many of you use Google to find answers to things still? How many of you use an LLM, an answer engine, more to find things now? Okay, we're about 50-50 in here. Well, here's the fun part. You notice the AI overview on Google a lot of times seems like it's garbage. Like it'll give you an answer, and then you go check the reference on it, and you're like, that's not what they said. Well, it's because LLMs are lazy readers. So you might know this. I was talking to Scott earlier, and he was like, is this why a lot of times when I'm reading something online, it seems very repetitious? Yes, because the LLMs tend to take things out of context. And so they'll take a small block and they will interpret it in their own way, not looking at the rest of the content above or below. So we have to start writing now to be able to talk about what is the topic of conversation almost in every single section. So, and this is the crazy thing, I started researching AEO, and a lot of the experts, we'll call them, they say that to get up to the top of the rankings in AEO, to be referred to in GPT, anything else, you should start putting all of your content on Reddit. Now, this is just Will's opinion, but how many of you think Reddit's, I mean, we all use Reddit. There's some good stuff, but how many of you think Reddit's garbage? Yeah, oh yeah. The whole room. We're unanimous. Reddit is garbage. So, AI is infallible and unbiased? Yeah, if only. AI learns from human-created data. And our data is, well, like Reddit, messy. Think of it like teaching a toddler language using social media or Reddit. AI is trained on historical data, which often contains bias. Here's our second misconception. AI thinks and understands like a human. Some other idiot has heard the line in the well-known super electronic story. That's actually a true story. AI doesn't think. AI simulates thinking. It doesn't understand. It's based on probability and pattern recognition, not reasoning or emotion. It doesn't get anything. It's basically an extremely fast guesser, not a philosopher. Here's our last one. AI will make human labor obsolete. We've talked all about that. So many companies are using AI as a scapegoat to reduce workforce so they can save public face. Not a chance. AI can point at interesting things. Humans decide whether or not those things matter. Human oversight is essential to check for accuracy, ethical compliance, and to interpret AI-generated results in context. So the human-in-the-loop approach ensures that AI enhances rather than replaces decision-making. So why does a human still need to be in the loop? Well, as we talked about this morning, AI is fast. And we need that speed, but humans are right. So together, AI and humans are fast and right. Gone are those days of analyzing 500 megabyte hard drives and 8 gigabyte smartphones. We often see at our firm enterprise hard drive disks in incident response cases or in criminal cases, anywhere between 10 to 20 terabytes. We heard last week about an attack out of Canada with TELUS, and our engineers were talking about the data was a petabyte of data. Never heard of that term before. AI can speed up triage, anomaly detection, and evidence classification, but AI is prone to bias, false positives, and incorrect inferences. So human experts must stay involved to validate. So we're going to talk about the expert in the loop workflow. This means that investigators are actively involved at every critical stage, from reviewing to verifying, correcting, and interpreting AI outputs rather than delegating these decisions to automation. This blended approach enhances speed, but without sacrificing forensic integrity. Think of AI as an employee that you need to supervise. You can continually train them to get better at their job, but you are still responsible for making sure that they are doing their job correctly. So, okay, here's step 1 out of 3. AI suggests leads, but humans make the adult decisions. I'm not going to go through all these bullet points because, again, lunch is outside and I think we're all smelling it. But AI is excellent at identifying potential evidence quickly. Things like clusters of deleted messages, connections between devices, unusual timestamps, or suspicious user activity. However, remember, leads. These are leads, not conclusions. Okay, why does this matter? AI can highlight patterns that look meaningful but aren't, and humans prevent wild goose chases and keep only defensible evidence in the case file. Okay, number 2, AI flags anomalies, humans decode the mystery. Patterns such as unusual logins, repeated file deletions, or odd network traffic can indicate malicious behavior, but context determines meaning. So, why does this matter? AI sees patterns, humans understand the purpose. Context turns alerts into answers. Number 3, AI handles the data fire hose. Remember, we're talking about like what now? A petabyte of data? That's crazy. Humans decide what matters. Modern cases involve huge data volumes. Cloud syncs, chat histories, logs, photos. Okay, let's do a quick little game here. How many of you have, without looking, do you know, 5,000 plus photos on your phone? Okay, how many of you have 10,000 plus? Keep your hands up. 30,000? Some hands went down. I jumped a lot, but we still have some that say 30,000. Okay, so I recently took a cruise and I went to clean out the photos on my phone so that way, in case, someone wanted to like image my phone at a checkpoint or something, they didn't find a bunch of screenshots that they might, Anyway, let's just, we're going to ignore that I said that. You know how many copies and duplicates of photos I had? I had 32,000 photos. I knocked it down to like 15,000. As a human doing that, it took me about 3 days, not consecutively, but 3 days of just, free time, sitting in the recliner, watching TV. This is why AI tools are important, because it can speed that process up so much. But, so we've got these large data volumes full of all these cloud syncs, these chat histories, these logs, photos, app artifacts, Internet of Things data. AI excels at processing it, but it cannot determine what matters for a case. So, why does this matter? A case isn't built on raw data. It's built on interpretation, and that is uniquely a human skill. So, you notice I keep saying case. So I look at this more or less on the the digital forensics side for criminal cases. We also do digital forensics for incident response. So looking at drives after a ransomware attack, after a malware attack, seeing what PII is out there, using these tools to be able to file our reports and to be able to just give the client basically a report of what was exposed so that they can take their next steps. I tend to work a little bit on the criminal side. Now you notice I said I was director of marketing. That doesn't mean that I just do marketing. I do a lot of different things. Again, social engineering, it's a fun little hobby for me. But on the criminal side, also because of my background doing cinematography, doing audio production, when there's murder videos, they come to me. So, yikes. Automation bias. Let's talk about automation bias. Don't believe everything the robot says. Automation bias occurs when investigators place too much trust in AI-generated results simply because it came from a computer. In digital forensics, where evidence can make or break a case, this creates risks such as overlooked artifacts, misinterpreted data, and conclusions that won't survive legal scrutiny. A human-centered approach ensures that AI is used as a tool, not a decision maker. So let's look at some other misconceptions relating to forensics specifically. AI thinks like us. Okay, we've already covered this. AI simulates understanding, but doesn't actually understand anything. So if I say, AI understands context versus AI understands context, it sees that exactly the same way. It does not understand sarcasm. AI is always right. Right. Confidently wrong is still wrong. And as we've discussed a lot in the last 2 days, AI has a tendency sometimes to hallucinate. Last year, there were prosecutors in Northern California that used AI to write a criminal court filing. And this filing, which they did not look at themselves before they turned it in, contained references to non-existent legal cases and statutes in California that were fictitious. So a lot of lawyers, a lot of law firms are getting in trouble for using AI now because they are not verifying the evidence after the fact. Okay, next step. AI catches everything. No. 0 days and novel TTPs often surpass trained patterns. New, unusual, or cleverly disguised behaviors often require human analysis. Okay, AI understands context. We've covered this a little bit too. No, they struggle with sarcasm. They don't understand cultural context, ambiguous language, or complex human relationships. AI is unbiased. No, it absorbs whatever bias is in the training set. If the data contains systemic bias, skewed misrepresentation, or inaccurate labels, AI will inherit those flaws. AI stays accurate over time. No. We all know that we live in an industry where you gotta keep working on things and keep improving. Every day it's a new thing. Model performance decays if data sources change, apps evolve, attack techniques adapt, and context shifts. AI needs ongoing tuning, model updates, and human validation. Oh, went too far. Okay, so point on this. Treat AI outputs as, like we said before, leads, not conclusions. Verify before you trust. Okay, so how do we avoid automation bias? If AI results are accepted without verification, false positives can implicate innocent individuals, critical evidence might be missed, reports may contain inaccuracies, opposing counsel may challenge your methodology. That is very important. And entire cases could collapse due to unreliable findings. If you feel there's an integrity issue at any point, you don't feel like you should trust anything. So avoiding automation bias ensures that every conclusion is investigator-led, evidence-driven, and legally defensible. All right, let's look at the ethical and legal guardrails. As AI becomes woven into digital forensic practice, investigators must not only think about what the tools can do, but also ensure that every AI-assisted step remains ethically sound, transparent, and legally defensible. AI introduces new risks that traditional workflows have never had to consider, such as chain of custody. How do we keep evidence trackable and untouched? AI tools can touch vast amounts of data, logs, chat histories, images, cloud data, but how do we keep it to where that chain of custody is still intact? You have to make sure, and again, because of time, I'm going to skip a couple of these, but one of the things that people don't realize, when you plug into these, you have to realize what tools you're using. Are they using a cloud? Are you uploading this data to a cloud? You really should try to keep things local or on-prem. You need to keep that sensitive evidence out of third-party clouds, because that could affect the chain of custody. So, the automated processing. So when you're using these tools, a lot of times, it creates artifacts that it puts inside of the data as well. So you gotta be very careful about that, because now these AI tools can inject data into the evidence that was not part of the original evidence when it was handed to you. Okay, so every interaction must preserve this core forensic principle. Evidence must remain unaltered, traceable, and verifiable from acquisition to the courtroom presentation. If you can't show exactly how evidence was handled, integrity and admissibility can be challenged. Okay, number 2, reducing bias in automated triage. Okay, so on the IR side, if AI models are trained on data, and if that training data is incomplete, unrepresentative, or poorly labeled, the output will reflect those biases. So in digital forensics, this has real consequences. So why does this matter? Biased AI outputs can lead investigators down the wrong path, or worse, contribute to wrongful accusations. So human review must remain the gatekeeper for fairness. Okay, number 3, meeting evidentiary standards. Evidentiary. Yeah, I didn't practice that one. So, forensic evidence must meet strict courtroom standards. So AI-generated conclusions or classifications can be challenged if they do not meet established scientific validity tests. To be considered reliable, any forensic method involving AI-assisted ones must hold up to well-established admissibility standards. Remember, judges look for testability, peer review, known error rates, and general acceptance. So you need to make sure that your AI is used for leads and summaries, not final conclusions. Verify every AI-assisted finding using reproducible forensic methods. Document how each AI insight was confirmed or refuted. Also, remember to track the model numbers of the software that you're using, the configurations, the processing steps, because again, it needs to be repeatable, and be prepared to clearly articulate AI's limitations. Okay, a case can collapse if AI becomes the primary unverified source of a conclusion. Remember, courts want transparency, reproducibility, expert testimony, and accountability. AI can't explain itself, it can't testify, it can't be cross-examined, but you, as the analyst, can. Human-centered AI isn't just a workflow approach. It is a courtroom survival strategy. Now let's talk about some real-world use cases. Now this is criminal side and IR side. So AI can dramatically accelerate forensic workflows only if humans remain the final arbiters of truth, interpretation, and legal defensibility. So let's break down some common use cases. AI-assisted log analysis. Okay, so for example, and I've talked to a few people about this, human-centered workflow, keep an analyst from blindly trusting the AI pattern matching to ensure legal defensibility and incident response. and breach cases. So for instance, a lot of what we do, if there's a ransomware case, we get a drive-in. We're using tools to be able to look for PII, personal identifiable information. And so one of the ways that we do that, it was do a little regex code that looks for like, all right, I want you to look for 3 digits, followed by 2 digits, followed by 4 digits. Why? It's your social security number. So we're looking for any instance of that. And so if that successfully works, we start seeing a lot of driver's license popping up. We start seeing a lot of employment records, W-2 forms, social security cards, but sometimes it might misinterpret a digit or a character or something, and so you might also find data in there that isn't actually a social security number and doesn't really match it, but the computer thought it did. Also, here's a fun one for you. Do you know how AI tools find nudity on a device? So there is a color palette, and it's all these different skin pigments, all these different skin tones. And so what the tools do is they look for those specific colors, and they base it on the percentage of those colors showing in the photograph. So if you are wearing a beige shirt, tan khakis, you are completely nude. So again, you need that expert in the process to verify this. Okay, so how many of you are parents in the room? Okay, so when your child got injured, if they fell on the playground, they hit their head, if they fell at home, if they scraped a knee, if they got a gash on their head, what do you do with your phone? You take photos, you document it, correct? You need a document, especially like if you're fostering, that is a requirement of DHS, that you document all of those injuries. So, let's say that you take your phone and you process it, you image it, you run it through AI tools, and the tools find these photos. You know what they think they are? Evidence of child abuse. So again, it's very important to have that expert at the end. Okay, so number 2, automated malware classification. Humans can catch obfuscation, confirm edge cases, and analyze 0 days that the models haven't seen. We're going to go ahead and skip through because we need to get through this. Okay, so AI-powered image video triage. Okay, in ICAC and cybercrime cases, only a trained examiner can make determinations that stand up in court or avoid misidentifying individuals. Again, Scott and I were having this conversation earlier, and we were like batting back and forth with all these different cases that we know about. There was a guy that was wrongfully accused of murder. He was convicted. He was in prison for over a year before they finally appealed the case. The reason he was convicted was because AI tools found a grainy CCTV camera footage from a murder scene and said it was a 100% absolute match to his driver's license photo in the DMV database. Well, humans took a look, and guess what? They look nothing the same. So, yeah. LLM summaries of huge data sets. We've already talked about this quite a bit. There's a lot of data out there. AI really helps us to be able to parse through all of that, find out what's important. And then finally, predictive models for IR. So many times, we hear clients say that they immediately powered off a system or server to stop a malware attack. How many of you know that that's a bad thing? Yeah, okay, Dom, why is that a bad thing?
They still have access to the network that they're trying to penetrate.
Right, they still have access, but also, we find ourselves face-palming because powering off a device that's connected to the network could destroy volatile evidence, such as RAM artifacts, running processes, and so on. Not to mention, it can possibly trigger data corruption. So, yes.
Bootloader attacks as well. So
right.
Once you restart it.
Yeah, you restart it, and like Don said, it's still there. Yeah.
Worse.
Okay, so hey, we're at the end now. So we're going to get to the fun part where we summarize this. So human-centered AI, this is why this works. Human-centered AI works because it combines what machines do best with what only humans can uniquely understand, creating a faster, smarter, and more defensible forensic process. So AI excels at speed, pattern recognition, data reduction, summarization, and signal detection in noise. Humans excel at interpretation, contextual reasoning, ethical and legal judgment, understanding intent, building narratives, and the final decision making. So together, the system becomes faster, more accurate, is more defensible in court, more consistent across cases, makes you less prone to burnout, and there's less oversight errors. So I believe yesterday, can't remember who it said, one of the speakers said, just because you're using AI doesn't mean that you stop using your brain. Oh, that's sticking with me. I'm taking that one home. So, in the closing analysis, in digital forensics, AI is invaluable when you keep experts in control. Human-centered workflows make investigations faster, fairer, more accurate, and more defensible. AI is not the enemy, it is just a tool. And again, sometimes acts like a tool. Use AI to accelerate discovery and then let the human expertise lock in the truth. So I'm going to put up my closing slide here. So hey, look, it's me. Thank you, I appreciate that. Alias Cybersecurity, secureafpodcast.com. We have lots of episodes that talk about everything from penetration testing, real life examples, to incident response, SOC monitoring, even like all the legalese, determined with like regulations and everything. Our CISO does an amazing job of reading through all the guidelines of everything ever. He read the HIPAA new security rules. It's like 660 plus pages. He read it twice within a week for fun. We are crazy people, so come join us. There's my LinkedIn. Feel free to hit me up. And because of time, I will take questions out in the hall. Or during lunch. So try the fish. I hear it's great. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. And I know I feel very bad about trying to shove you into a smaller time block, but I really appreciate that. It was a great presentation. Lunch is out there. Same as